Is media controlled by a small, concentrated interest, or is it directed from the question, what will facilitate the most well-being for the people watching the media? In other words, if we look at the United States model of media, in which all media is paid for by advertising. So we break it down. We look at the most popular songs that will, so these 200 million view songs all have products that are placed within the song for money. There's nothing to do with the actual affiliation of the actor and actresses that are playing the role of popular culture icon. The watches, the cars, etc. are provided, and often there is a payment to the performer in order to associate that product with whatever is considered cool. YouTube and other media and Facebook, etc., are provided as in a framework in which you are the product. You, the customer, is the product that is sold to the advertiser. Now, the advertiser is the person who will pay money on the presumption that they can influence you to buy their items in such quantities that it will not only pay back the advertisement and not only pay for the cost of manufacturing the item, but actually pay for a profit to all the employees, etc., and to shareholders. In other words, that you, the product, are worth a shitload of money that can provide the entire infrastructure of internet, information, different media technology, etc. And so what an advertiser has to do within the paradigm of capitalism, the paradigm in which the advertiser's primary responsibility is to turn $1 into $10. If the advertiser turns $1 into $10, the advertiser, through this lens, the capitalist lens, is the lens that said, did I make money or lose money by this behavior? Did I make money or lose money by this behavior? And the answer to that is determined by, did I make money or lose money for the company that hired me? And the answer to that is, did I get sufficient numbers of people to buy the advertiser's product? That's all it is. These could be machine guns. These could be nuclear missiles. These could be machetes. These could be videos on how to rape women. These could be videos about drinking. These could be instructions on how to destroy a culture. It doesn't matter what the item is, meaning the advertisers are not specific. And, cigarettes and alcohol, two of the most toxic substances in our cultural history, along with sugar, and you can throw in, dairy and meat the way it's been produced, has been turned into an absolute gold mine for the manufacturers, who in turn, the other side of the equation that makes money is lowering the cost of production. So once you've got people sold on the idea that these fictitious pastoral images of these cows out in nature enjoying themselves needs to be substituted for the reality of steroided, antibiotic, medicated, sick, claustrophobic animals, being treated inhumanely. So there's a substitution process that is innate in maximizing the profit in this scenario. And because nobody's going to buy the animals if they see the actual pictures, this is one of the reasons that states, and this is where we, again, get into government. Does government serve the people making money at the public's expense, or does it serve the public and challenge our businesses to actually behave ethically? Well, when you create state laws to, for example, prevent drone photography, in order that the public is kept in the dark so that nobody knows what's actually happened, nobody knows what's actually happening, number one. And then number two, it gets worse, because if you just say, I don't know if I should eat this meat, or I don't know if I should drink this chemical or put on this hair product, etc., I don't know. Because they don't even list the ingredients, because the FDA doesn't test this or that scent product, etc. So I don't know. So I need to find out is the obvious thing. But when with advertising, the idea is to flood the senses with illusory sensory correlation with the product so that you think that you know. So first of all, you get people to buy the product. Then you damage the product to reduce cost, thus damaging the client. Then you mask the damage, and then rather than leave a void, to find out, you flood the client with information of the exact opposite nature of what's actually going on. Daisy the cow out in the field smiling happily masks the reality of an actual cow being electrocuted in squeezed, closed-in quarters where they haven't even bothered to take the manure out, and medicating sores with antibiotics to try and suppress the poison that is erupting in a poorly maintained carcass that is not fit for healthy human consumption. Now, this is an inevitable result of asking the question, will this make me more money today? The truth is often more expensive. The truth is often more expensive than a lie. And the reason lies are so profitable is that you just change the words, you don't change the reality. Because everyone wants to hear the words that things are doing okay. If you want to hear those words, you've got two options. Either someone can lie to you and say, things are doing okay. And you can say, oh, that's wonderful. But it doesn't mean anything. It just means things are doing terrible, have been deleted, and things are being okay is there. It's the same exact reality. The other thing is to figure out what's not right. 2, why it's not right. 3, whose interest is it, whose special interest is it that it's not right. And 4, what to do about it. And 5, how to combat all the resistance that you encounter from those special interests as you try and do something about it. Well, that's a shitload of work. And so it's much easier to just delete things are terrible and replace things are okay and are going to be better. Isn't that wonderful? And so we elect politicians that lie to us because it makes us comfortable. Now, going back to media, when all of the funding for all of the people in media comes from political campaigns, from special interest groups, from advertisers, who all have an agenda to obscure reality from a public so that a public will spend their money based on misinformation, you have a deteriorating culture. Because the reason this bargain is so wonderful for our business, companies and our advertisers is that it actually works. It's wonderful because some part of our brain hasn't figured out that when you see the sexy babe flirting and winking at you and winking at the guy who drinks a beer, that going and getting the beer isn't going to produce the babe. Some part of the brain doesn't get that. And so you want the babe, you see the beer, you go get the beer, and this all works. Person sells the product, etc. And then rather than the babe showing up, you get fat, irritable, and lethargic. And you don't get the babe because you're a fat drunk who isn't doing anything with their life. And so it's not only, a lie, meaning the body's expecting the babe. I mean, beer doesn't even taste all that good. So you rewire people to do the exact opposite of what's actually good for their future, the culture, and their health in order to concentrate money in a few people's pockets at everyone's expense. See, and it's nice in the compartmentalized version because the advertiser who's just created a bunch of drunken, incompetent men and women goes off and spends their money probably doing something a little bit more interesting, working on ads, developing this, working on their house, etc. And it's everyone else who has to deal with the wreckage of their misinformation. It's the parents of the kids that got shot up that have to deal with, all the gun propagation and isn't it cool in the video games and all that. It's not the advertiser. It's it's the people that have to pay back the credit card debt, that were lied to that $200 sunglasses when you don't really have a job is a great idea because that's going to make you a successful person, which obviously, if you can believe all I need is a pair of important sunglasses and I'll be a success, or all I need is 5 years of study and hard work and sacrifice and I'll be a success, you can see the appeal. But it's an appeal to the laziest, most destructive aspect of the individual. And it's pitting that, it's arming that laziness with just enough little bits of truth and misinformation to motivate an entire culture to spiral slowly down. In an optimal culture, the public decides if there are any billboards, first of all, and number two, what goes on them based on public information. If there are no billboards, great. But if there are, and the number one thing for the well-being of the community is on that billboard, that community is supporting itself with affirmation, with reminders. It might say something like, remember to take a walk and do yoga before breakfast. Remember to get some protein in your body from an organic source. Go and help a friend today and find out what one of your neighbors is not feeling fully at peace with in the community. And then make a blog about that. Okay, you do that. Everyone does that. They see the billboard. The exact same neuronal pathways get triggered. This is important. Let's do it. Let's follow the masculine leadership. Someone has something to teach. You see, because what's good is the belief, is the faith. What's evil is the corruption of the masculine position of leadership, dominance, and teaching to abuse the very people that we have that we are as a culture needing to protect. When anyone says, I've got something to say, I've got something to teach, I can help, their responsibility is at every level to say something that they believe, based on active information, is actually going to be in the best interest of the best part of that person. When they don't, when a celebrity that we've come to like because they've played a character, like Patch Adams or something, like, oh, that's a great character, or, Schindler's List, I want to be like them. They earn leadership by, in the movie, associating themselves by doing courageous, difficult things for the greater good. Now, when you take that face, and advertisers, of course, know this, and misuse it by saying, this is the kind of cigar I like to smoke, this is the kind of alcohol I drink on a Sunday night, this is how your high up and standing, high status ideal behaves. Now, you get $1 million for lying to the public. Good for you. The public's alcohol consumption goes up, bad for everyone else. It's a betrayal. It's like, well, I just did it for the money. Yeah, you just sold out every single person. You sold out your children, you sold out your grandchildren, you just sold out every single person, pretending to believe something you don't, so that you could get paid. You just included this clunky suitcase or watch or something from this special brand, etc., that you don't even use. It means nothing to you, so that you'd get paid. And we're all happy because all that we care about is that it's free. But it's never free. There is no free lunch. The question is, will you pay for it? When Google came out with Google Red or Premium, so that you can watch YouTube without a single ad, I bought it because I don't want my body being fucked with and unconsciously associating important videos and thoughts that I believe in with the crap that someone's figured out based on my eye movements and this and that and the other, that I will believe and not realize it because my attention is diverted. We've got many levels of the brain, and I'm very aware as an individual of how influenced I am. I'll get up and start eating something that I see one of the characters eating. I think, oh, what a great idea. He's happy, they're doing this, let's do that. Oh, that's a good point, why don't we do that? And this is the way that we're wired as the animal in human beings, to copy success. Success has always been the same. Security, survival, love and belonging, self-esteem, self-actualization. That's every human's basic hierarchy of need, which Abraham Maslow, did a wonderful job of portraying. And so when you see someone with high status, high security, a sense of love and belonging, high self-esteem, liking themselves, etc., surrounded in luxury, and they're doing something, the intelligence of the body says, let me do that too, because that's the direction I want to move in. Now, this gets very dangerous, of course, when you can edit things and where someone can do things for an hour that is sustainable for an hour, but it's toxic for a lifetime, but they're presenting that character as if they always do that. When in reality, if you waste money that way, if you, behave in this way, if you eat these things and drink these things, etc., you probably can't sustain the kind of lifestyle being portrayed erroneously in the movie. It's an illusion. Some part of our brain knows it, some doesn't. So one of the metrics of an intelligent culture is, do we understand that? Well, advertisers do, because they're interested in making money, and they have no interest in maintaining any delusions that stop them from making money. It's a sociopathic game in a sociopathic paradigm in which people are sold out for money every day of the week. Well, if we understand that they're going to tell the truth because their money's on the line, and you see that they're doing it, you know they believe it, and they believe it because it makes them money. Now, they don't know the full science of it because consciousness and brain is still a new subject. As one famous advertiser said, we know that 50% of all the money we spend on advertising is wasted. We just don't know which one. We don't know which 50%. And that's getting a little bit better now that we're integrating into click technology. So we start to know what actually works and even be able to build advertising campaigns where you don't pay anything unless you sell something. And so it becomes even more important to understand, because we can specifically track how much weight a group of people who buy this are going to gain rather than if they didn't. How much sanity goes up and down. How much self-esteem goes up and down. And so if we understand that our charge, our responsibility is to actually present accurate pictures. Now, the same thing is true in all levels. The United States government, with a political agenda, one of Nixon's aides, thankfully, came out not too long ago and said, of course we knew marijuana was not as dangerous as cigarettes and alcohol. Of course we knew LSD had beneficial effects and needed to be science. Of course we knew that psychedelics were not even as dangerous as cigarettes and alcohol. But we also knew something else. We knew that feminists, African Americans, and liberals seeking cultural reform were all interested in psychedelics, and marijuana. And we couldn't make it illegal to be black, and we couldn't make it illegal to be a feminist, and we couldn't make it illegal to want cultural reform in a fucked up culture like this. But what we could do is we could, first of all, illegalize the substances that were aiding in this transformation. And then secondly, disrupt their communities and movements by arresting people and terrorizing them with the fear of arrest, and thus control them for political purposes. And so we've had a war on human beings and a war on consciousness mislabeled as a war on drugs. I mean, drugs don't do anything. They just sit there. The war is on people and their freedom to act. It's not on bits of powder. Nixon wasn't afraid of bits of powder. When he said Timothy Leary was the most dangerous man in America, what he really meant was Timothy Leary and the expansion of consciousness that he represents is the most frightening person to me personally and my political doctrine. My political dogma is being unsettled by what's coming to consciousness in substances that dissolve barriers. And so I've got to attack him because I've got to scare off and I've got to create this misinformation. Schedule 1 drugs, MDMA, LSD, DMT. Do you realize that you have a Schedule 1 drug in your own brain? Endogenous DMT, endogenous means it's produced by the body, exists in small quantities. I believe it's in the pineal gland. And that means you could be arrested for DMT, theoretically. But what they've tried to do is DMT is all around in all kinds of plants. You find it in this leaf, you find it in this bark, you find it in this flower over here, you find it here, you find it there. That they've been systematically banning human beings from their freedom to develop ritualized consciousness that might penetrate the corruption of these. One of them is the capitalist dogma, in which even going to war can be seen as a great thing because it's profitable for certain companies. I mean, who gives a fuck for the human beings who are murdered? It's good for business for this company, and so they'll give money if someone will swing the country towards a war. Well, obviously that doesn't lead to anyone's well-being. So it's, and particularly when we're dealing with something like Vietnam, you have to fly, 16 hours just to get there. It's like they are not a threat. Whatever they choose politically in Vietnam, to our way of life. And they certainly are not as much of a threat to our way of life as our willingness to drop burning flames on men, women, and children. That is a threat to our way of life. As soon as you know you have leaders who have the rationale that there are certain conditions in which dropping burning flames on men, women, and children and setting forests alight is necessary for the American way of life, the American way of life has no meaning. I'd rather there isn't an American way of life than an American way of life that requires women and children to be burned alive. That's not an American way of life I'm interested in, or inspired by, or believe in, or feel anything but scorn and disgust for. It's not human. It's not Christian. It's not kind. It's not intelligent. It's sociopathic tyranny out of the reptilian brain stem that is produced precisely because we don't have rituals that honor the dignity of the humanity inside you and me. And so this is a very, very big issue. Is media controlled by conscientious people who decide what is beneficial to the community and have a dialogue about that? Or is it generated either for political uses or financial uses at the expense of every single person involved, and then not talked about, because that's also not in anyone's interest in who has any money or owns a network to talk about everyone who's being sold out.